Hi friends, right, in this video I'm going to be talking about why second year of university was a bit tough for me. Right, so I'm basically doing a joint degree of electronics and electrical engineering and computer science together. For engineering in year one, it was super chill because what we learned was basically general engineering. So in general engineering, all of the people who's doing engineering, everyone would just be doing the same modules essentially. And we just did small things. We made a Rube Goldberg machine, and usually people who make Rube Goldberg machines, they would be in high school. And we also learned engineering maths, and the engineering maths that we learned was kind of chill because the maths that we learned was basically just A-level maths and maybe a bit of further maths. So I think if you just do A-level maths and further maths, you'll probably be fine in year one of university for engineering essentially. But in second year of university, it was more specific to electronics and electrical engineering. So it's not general engineering like how it was in year one. And in year two, we basically learn about PMOS, and we also learn about CMOS, and we also learn about D-latch, and we learn about Carnot map. It's all just very complicated. So it's kind of a big jump from year one, we just did general stuff, to year two, we were just focusing specifically on electronics stuff essentially. And I also did computer science, but computer science wasn't that bad. Because in year one of computer science, we basically just did object-oriented programming, and in that class, it was just the basics of Java. So we just learned about for loop, we learned about classes and arrays and all that stuff, and it's all just the basics of Java essentially. And I think you can kind of understand that class, object-oriented programming, by just checking out my YouTube Java playlist essentially. And you can also check out Alex Lee's channel, which basically has a lot of Java YouTube videos as well. And you should check out the New Boston as well. And those channels basically have a lot of basics of programming languages. But we literally went from learning the basics of Java to learning about computer architecture in year two of university. And in year two of university for computer science, we basically learned about how a CPU actually works. And we basically kind of programmed a CPU essentially. And it was cool and all, but it was tough as well. And we also learned about assembly language. And assembly language is a very low-level programming language. So essentially in the programming language hierarchy, the top level is basically high-level programming language. So we basically have Java, and we have Python and all that. And then below that is assembly language. And the assembly language that I used in that class was called MIPS assembly language. And below assembly language would then just be binary stuff. So it's basically just ones and zeros and hexadecimals that only the computer would know. And in year two of university, we also learn about algorithm and data structures, also known as ALDS, which is basically the core part of computer science and stuff like that. And that class was tough as well. We learned all kind of stuff. We learned about big O time complexity and big O space complexity and stuff like that. And I felt it was just kind of an overload of different algorithms and different data structures. And there's also a lot of maths involved. We actually had to do some mathematical induction to actually prove that this algorithm basically has this time complexity and stuff like that essentially. And there was just a lot of information in that module essentially. And we also had an exam for algorithm and data structures, which I barely passed. Right. So I basically failed 2 exams in year 2 of university. Both of them were engineering exams. One was called Digital System Design. The other was called Sensor Networks and Data Analysis. So for Sensor Networks or Data Analysis, also known as SNADA, that unit was basically taught by 3 lecturers, and each of those lecturers were teaching 3 completely different stuff essentially. We learned all sorts of stuff. We learned about communication and about Fourier series, all the way to machine learning essentially. And in digital system design, also known as DSD, we learned all kinds of stuff. We learned about finite state machines, FPGA architecture, ASM charts, and all that. And I think the reason why I failed these 2 exams is because for some of the exams, it was basically impossible to get above 70 for those exams because there was just a lot of questions which were super in-depth, and you couldn't fully understand it from just reading your lectures and your tutorials essentially, because those questions were super in-depth and it was super complex essentially. But maybe if we just had some access to past papers from previous exams, it would be much easier. Because in GCSE and A-levels, we always have past papers, and past papers were somewhat similar. We would know always the similar questions which are being told, and it would be easier for our future exams because we know the similar questions and stuff like that. And just with practice, you start to understand all of those repeated questions and you start to become better. But literally for sensor networks and data analysis, 38% of the class actually failed in the exam. And once I got my results, I told my lecturer, could you remark my exam and stuff like that? But he just ignored my email. And then I had my resits for year 2, and I passed one of the modules. I passed the digital system design, but for SNADA, I still failed that. And honestly, I felt comparing the resits exam to the actual exams, I felt the resits was actually much tougher. And I literally have no idea why it's actually tougher, to be honest. But like now I'm actually kind of in year 3, but I still have to do that SNADA exam during my exam season. So it's just one extra exam which I have to do. So I guess if you fail an exam, just know that like life still moves on. If there's truly nothing that you can do, and like the lecturers also say there's nothing they can do, stop worrying about that exam and try and study for the other exams. And honestly, try and study with other people who has also the same exams to do, so it makes it much simpler. Because like honestly, I don't think you can actually go through university without making any friends, to be honest. Because like all of the exams is super tough in university, and you should also like study with other people who needs to reset the exam essentially. Like don't isolate yourself, and like just know that like failing is a part of university. And it's also a part of life. You just have to move on because you can't like change the previous grade, but you can change the next one. Alright, that's it for this video and thank you for watching. Goodbye.